It is Thursday, April 23rd. I'm here with Anna Navarro, and more importantly, I'm here with Chacha.
She's running on fumes too. We had a night.
Chacha's hungover. Welcome to Behind the Table. Let's get into some news. Okay. All right. Are you up for this?
Yeah,
right.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. All right, here we go.
Please do not wake Cha-Cha.
Yeah, sorry. All right, here we go. There continues to be shakeups in President Trump's cabinet with Labor Secretary Lori Chavez-DeRemer. She resigned amid misconduct allegations this week. Of course, this comes after Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem were fired recently. What do you think is going on? Why is it all women?
I mean, well, okay, let's leave the all women. I mean, they are all so bad. You can't even go and defend these women because they are all so bad.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the men are really bad too, right? You've got Pete Hegseth, allegations against him, the whole Signal Gate, enough of that. Just with that should have been enough for him to be fired. You've got Kash Patel schlepping, spending FBI money, schlepping his girlfriend around the country to her, whatever, country singing gigs at rodeos. But okay, let's talk about the three women who have resigned so far. Oh, wait, now you can add a man because he also got rid of the Secretary of the Navy. But let's talk about the three women. The allegations against these women are horrible. I mean, this latest one, the allegations is, first, her husband had been banned from the building for sexual harassment claims by staff that were caught on video.
Yeah, that's not good.
Then she, the former secretary, allegedly was having an affair with somebody on staff, was asking staff to bring wine to her room. Sounds like something I would do, which is why I'm never getting appointed to the cabinet. It was just complete mismanagement of the department. But that's what happens when you name unqualified people without a moral compass to these incredibly important jobs. Okay, so why the women? Because they're awful. Because they've been doing awful things. Kristi Noem spent $220 million on an ad campaign featuring her. An ad campaign featuring her in front of Mount Rushmore, riding around in a horse in English, telling immigrants not to come to the country. As if any immigrant's going to be watching that ad. Pam Bondi, a disgrace. Completely mismanaged the Epstein thing. Has, mismanaged everything. But the reason she got fired was because she didn't effectively prosecute Donald Trump's enemies that he wanted prosecuted, people like James Comey and Letitia James. And then this last woman, because of all the allegations I just named. So these women have become a problem for Trump. They are bringing bad headlines. And then there's the Secretary of the Navy. They appoint this guy, Secretary of the Navy, which is a hugely important position.
Yes.
The man was an art dealer, an art collector, a Republican donor, right, who ran around in the same circles as Donald Trump, I guess, who was an art collector with zero experience in the Navy. The guy who held the job before this under Biden was my friend Carlos Del Toro, who was in the Navy for 20 plus years, has more titles from the Naval War College, is an engineer, a successful entrepreneur, had his own engineering consulting company that was incredibly successful, and then went back to serve as Secretary of the Navy. At a time when we are in the middle of war, where the Navy is having such a starring position, right? I mean, we have all of these Navy ships deployed to the Strait of Hormuz and to the area where we are at war in. We are blockading the Strait of Hormuz and blockading Iran. That's all being done by the Navy. And the Navy secretary gets fired in the middle of that. And you can't even, it's the same thing as with the women. You can't even get mad about them getting fired because they're so bad. They're so unqualified.
A couple of things we're going to go through here. So Lori Chavez-DeRemer has denied any wrongdoing. And Kash Patel has also denied drinking to excess and is filing a lawsuit against the Atlantic based on their article implying that he was.
And it was revealed yesterday that the FBI is now investigating the New York Times reporter who broke the story about the FBI schlepping
The
jet
FBI is
schlepping
denying that as well.
his
but yes.
his girlfriend around.
Yes, but that was the story the Times ran.
Where's there to deny? He had to pay back the money. How can you be denying that when you know
He's saying
when
there was not an
there's
investigation.
when there's airplane logs, and when it happened. He had to pay back the money when it became public, but I don't know how you deny that. What else do you want to talk
You're
about?
in rare form today. Let's move on to another hot topic. So Tucker Carlson made a lot of news this week, apologizing for misleading people and endorsing Trump. You go back and forth on how much grace you're willing to give people that admit their mistakes with Trump. What did you make of it?
I'm hungover. Are you really going to make me talk about Tucker Carlson? I may vomit right here, right now, if you're going to make me discuss this. I mean, honestly, he is disgusting. Tucker Carlson is not somebody that anybody should give grace to, because Tucker Carlson changes his tune according to what is convenient and expedient for Tucker Carlson. More than that, what is making him money.
All right, but as someone who is not a fan of President Trump,
Who are you referring to?
You. The fact.
Not a fan. I hate him. He's
Yes,
disgusting.
I understand.
Despicable.
I understand.
Loathsome. Cruel, inhumane. What is there? I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
Someone who strongly dislikes President Trump, do you is it helpful to have someone who, like Tucker Carlson, who has a lot of followers, coming on board that train and suggesting to his people that supporting Donald Trump was a mistake?
I guess so. I guess it doesn't hurt. But I think when you have people, even though he was in the White House, in the Oval Office this week, but when you have people like Joe Rogan, to me, Joe Rogan is much more of an honest broker. And you see his thought process and what he's going through. And, you know, he's having the guts to question. He's been critical of Trump on immigration. He's been critical of Trump regarding this war. He's, really calling it out. Now, does that mean, by the way, I think Bill Maher, I would say, is the same. He's more of an honest broker. Yeah, he went to the White House. I mean, I wouldn't go to the White House under any circumstance right now. I would not go sit down with Donald Trump under any circumstance. But, these guys have gone. And at least in the Bill Maher case, he's continued being critical and poking fun at him and making jokes at him and calling out the abuses on his show. Let's see what Joe Rogan does now that he's been to the White House. I think he's going to continue being an honest broker, and to me that's very different from Tucker Carlson, who's a political whore.
Well, I will say I agree with you about Joe Rogan, because I disagree with a lot of the things he says, but you do see the wheels turning with him kind of, and you can kind of follow the train of what's important to him and why he feels the way he does about certain things. And Tucker seems more calculated, I would say that at the very least. All right. Well, speaking of calculations, the White House Correspondents Dinner is this weekend. President Trump is going for the first time since being president. Are you surprised he's going?
No, because if you see the way he's been acting in Trump 2.0, whatever it's called, Trump, the very bad sequel, everything he avoided in the first term, right? In the first term, he basically accepted the fact that nobody wanted him around and didn't go around, right? So he avoided the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He avoided the Kennedy Center honors. He avoided all those things that now he is showing up at, and not only showing up, but dominating and stacking with his people and, doing whatever the hell he wants and using it as a platform for him to vent. You're going.
I'm going. Yeah, I'm going.
Do you have any mixed feelings about that?
Well, for me, it's I go. This is part of my job to go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I went last year. Then Biden was there. There was no comedian. You went. 2 years ago? You went, right?
Yeah. I haven't gone since. I have not set foot in Washington D.C. since December.
So you're right. So last year I went when Trump was president, and there was no
from Washington,
thing. I go when I get an invitation from the network to go, and it's a interesting weekend. I will say that there's parties, there's people there, there's all that kind of stuff. I'm very curious what it's going to be like.
For me, I remember the first time I went to a White House Correspondents Dinner, I was invited by CNN. I was a contributor there. And I remember I was kind of like, I was a junior contributor. I was in the back of the room. It's a huge room. I was on, a table that was more towards the back. And Obama was president. And it was a really big deal for
I remember
me
that. I didn't go those. Yeah.
To be included in that. It's kind of like a rite of passage when you get invited to a White House Correspondents Dinner. It is a very big deal and a ticket that everybody wants. There is no way in hell I would have to be dragged against my will, blindfolded, by 100 horses for me to go sit through this year. And it's, frankly, it's because I cannot normalize the abnormal. I cannot normalize the cruelty and inhumanity by Trump against my community in particular. There have been 50 people who have died under ICE custody, most of them my people. There are almost 4,000 small children in detention centers in deplorable conditions, mostly my community, children from my community. There's been deaths under ICE that are not investigated. There's Alex Preddy, there's Renee Good, there's the young man who got killed in Texas. There's the attacks on the free press. There's the lawsuits against everybody and their brother who dares write anything or say anything against him. There's the investigations and weaponization of DOJ against journalists, the weaponization of the FCC. So how in the hell could I possibly go there to an event that's supposed to celebrate journalism and celebrate free press with somebody who is repressing and oppressing that on a daily basis and who has been so cruel against my community? There's no way I'm putting on Spanx, shaving my legs, putting on and gonna go sit there, eat bad chicken, drink cheap wine, and laugh through jokes. And by the way, another thing, I am glad that Disney is supporting this, because let's remember, this is the funds raised at this event go towards scholarships.
Well, I was going to say that too, because I think everything you're saying is completely valid.
And they also recognize journalists at the event, right?
They do, and they give awards to journalism. Many of these awards are being given to people that wrote unflattering portrayals and stories about Donald Trump. And I do think it's important to stand up for the First Amendment and to support the journalists that are there. I'm not a journalist. I'm working for a television show that works under ABC News. But
for me, it hits differently.
I understand.
Because most of the cruelty, so no community has been as targeted, prosecuted, persecuted, maligned, humiliated, as tortured as much as the Latino community, the Latino immigrant community. That's what I am. So no, I under no circumstance could I do that. I'd rather fly coach, last row, middle seat, wedged between two guys with BO, 13 hours to Australia.
That's really specific.
Then go to this thing this year.
So let's talk about, you referenced maybe not feeling that well right now. I believe hungover was the word you used. What did you do last night?
I'm hungover with food, not just booze.
Oh, wow.
So no, last night, I can't remember the last time I ate like that. Last night, I thought I was going to have a really kind of easy night, and I didn't have to do CNN. I didn't, I had done my podcast earlier. I was fine. I was going to be cuddled up with Chacha, binge watching something and ordering room service. And then I got a text from Chef José Andrés, who's, a very good friend of mine. And he said, I just landed in New York. Are you here? I said, yes. And he said, I'm doing a book event with him in Miami, and he's coming here.
Mm-hmm. He's going to be on the show soon. Yeah.
May 29th, I think. And I'm doing a book event for his new book, Spain My Way, in Miami, June 4th. And he said, come to the restaurant. I need to try the menu and do some quality control. So come have dinner with me. So Chacha and I go off to the restaurant. This is Bazaar Meat, which is
I've been to the one he has in Vegas. It's
Bazaar
amazing.
Meat in the Ritz-Carlton here in New York. And he proceeds to basically order every item in the menu. And then the thing is, he's getting up and he's going to say hello to people who are eating at the restaurant and, being what a chef needs to be at their own restaurant. And so there's all of this food in front of me. And I'm like, I can't let a caviar cone go to
Of course,
waste.
no, you have to.
So I ate his and mine. I can't, I tried, what is that thing called? I had never tried it before. I find it incredibly intimidated. It was delicious. Sea urchin.
Ooh.
Uni. Have you ever had that?
No, I have not.
It looks a little funky.
Yeah.
You know what it looks like, right? It's kind of
Yes,
like that.
it's not for me, but
weird,
yeah.
It's basically the same color as Donald Trump's face, and it's squishy and smushy. It was delicious. I love seafood. So, Chacha had like half a pound of jamón ibérico. That's why she's
Chacha weighs half a pound.
That's why she's done for the day as well. I had way too much Albarino, which is the Spanish white wine that I love, and I had great conversations with Jose. We were talking about Anthony Bourdain, who was one of his best friends. Anthony died by suicide, actually, after having spent. Anthony was filming his show for CNN, Parts Unknown, and he had been traveling with some of his best friends. So he had done an episode and been with Jose in Asturias. And when he died by suicide, he was actually with the chef, who was also another one of his best friends, Eric Repair, who Eric actually found him. So it was horrible. But Jose says to me that he sometimes finds himself talking to Anthony, that he misses him terribly, and he sometimes finds himself talking to Anthony. And after Anthony died, I remember being with Jose just a couple of days later, and he was incredibly impacted and affected and sad.
Of course, yeah.
And he said something to me that has stuck with me, and it always sticks with me. I remember these words. He said, we have to check in on each other. Because, when you look at Anthony Bourdain's life, you think, oh, my God, he has everything.
Yeah.
He's famous. He's rich. He's, has
Traveling
this
the world.
wonderful show doing, who wouldn't want to be Anthony Bourdain? But you could have all of that and still be lonely.
Yeah, everyone's
and
got
still be
demons.
depressed and still be dealing with these ghosts. So, so we have to check in on each other.
That's a good
Like
thing.
I did with you.
Yes, well, let's get to it. So, all right, now it's time for the story that I've been teasing all week. You and I, on Monday night, both went to the Devil Wears Prada 2 premiere. We spent a lot of the evening together, not because that was the plan, but because I desperately needed you. So here's what happened. My wife was supposed to accompany me to the premiere.
No, wait though. Let me do an insert and then.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm at the premiere.
Yes.
I'm retrieving my tickets. I look to my side and I see you.
Yes.
And I enthusiastically greet you. Hi, Brian. Hi. Oh,
Yeah.
hi. And Chacha thinks somebody just walked in. And you looked like a complete wreck.
I was a complete wreck.
You looked like an urchin.
Yes.
From a Charles Dickens.
I look like a sea urchin.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was frustrated because my wife had a conflict at the last minute. I had to go to this thing alone. Not that I didn't.
So this is all Heather's fault.
I believe it was all Heather's
Okay.
fault, and I've told her this.
Does Heather listen to this podcast?
Occasionally, not often.
Okay.
So basically, I'm in a mood. I'm on the train. I'm looking at my phone. I'm half paying attention. I get off at 59th Street when the premiere was at Lincoln Center, which is 66th Street. I get off the subway. I have my phone in my hand like this, my phone and my wallet like this. I then look up and realize I got off at the wrong stop. I start to go back to the subway, and the train doors start to close. I hold out my hand to stop the train doors from closing. The train doors close on my wrist. I accidentally or reflexively drop my phone, which then goes through the gap in the subway to the tracks and down. This is my phone. This is my wallet, which has my credit cards, my driver's license, my ABC News ID, all gone. Train pulls out. Can't see it on the tracks. It's. I know it's down there, but I can't see it. Another train comes through. Another train comes through. I'm sitting here thinking, I have no way to get home. I have no way to call anybody. I have the Devil Wears Prada starts in 15 minutes. What am I supposed to do? And then I realize Anna Navarro was at the premiere. I can leech off Anna Navarro and find a way to get home or get some money. But first, then I realized I used my AirPods to connect. I did a little MacGyver thing. I used my AirPods to connect with my phone and use Siri to call my wife from my AirPods. And then I knew the phone was still there and working underneath the tracks. So I explained to her what was happening. I told her to call the MTA. I went to find you to get some way to get home. And there's nobody in the train track to help me. There's no MTA people there. There's nobody there. There's no police. There's nobody. So I go out to you. I didn't think I could get into the premiere because they were it's security and they're being very careful about checking IDs and very dedicated on it. I did not count on Anna Navarro just bursting through walls, which is what you do. You're like the Kool-Aid man. And you went through and you said, "Do you know who I am? I'm Anna Navarro. This is Brian Teta. He's the executive producer of the room. Find his thing." And they did. Yeah.
There is no way you would have gotten in if
There's
you had.
No way I would have gotten in.
God loves you.
Yes.
Because that, if it had been 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, we would have not run into each other.
Not a chance.
While retrieving the tickets. And there is no way you would have gotten tickets to go in because I have told you, you need to be authoritative when you ask for things. And you always look,
I am more of a you catch more flies with honey type of person than perhaps you or others.
You would have been eaten by the flies because you would,
I manage. I do pretty well in general. I figure my way out. I don't get turned away from a lot of things. But in this case, you're right. I would have been sent home.
This was a tough...
And I was not at my best at this moment.
They were actually checking IDs, checking people's off. They wanted the guest ID.
Yeah. I don't know how you got me in, but you got me into the thing.
Okay, so we get in. And then you are like moping around, looking like a lost puppy.
I was a lost puppy. I didn't even have subway fare to get home. I took $40 off your friend. Which
so you asked me for money.
Yes.
And I said, well, I don't have cash. I never carry cash. And and I said, Henry, give Brian some money.
Henry pulls out a wad of hundreds and gives me $40. So, all right. So we go to, we watch the movie. We enjoy the movie very much. There's a little party afterwards, and I'm then thinking the plan was for you to call me an Uber from your phone to go to my house. We're about to call the Uber, and right before we hit the button,
and I am willing to pay at $250.
I was going to pay you back, but yes.
Well, go ahead.
Because you don't Venmo, so it is annoying. I have to get a check for you or something. So I'm about to do it, and then we decide to text my wife from your phone instead. We text my wife. She says, "No, don't get on there. I talked to the MTA. Here's what you got to do. You got to rescue your stuff." Now it's 11:30 at night. I go to the MTA station. It's starting to get a little sketchy later at night. I look, can't find anyone. Press buttons on interfaces.
There's
Finally,
some sort of help box, right?
Nobody came. Eventually, I found someone to help me, and they tell me, yes, we can have someone go on the tracks and get this for you.
So how long did this take?
It's about 12.
Okay.
And they say this will happen in the next 6 hours. So I said, okay. I'm going to go home. Let me give you my phone number. Oh, wait, I don't have a phone. Here's my wife's phone number. I used the $40 your friend gave me to get on the train to go home. I connect again with my AirPods to tell my wife what time to pick me up at the train station. Because, again, I can't even get into my car because my car keys are digital on my phone, too, which is insane.
Wait, and while we are at the party, before you've done all this,
yes,
I suddenly say out loud to the people I had gone with around me, does anybody know the head of the MTA? Does anybody have the number of the head of the MTA?
Yes.
And now I am...
You're texting with the head of the MTA?
No, I'm texting with... I texted the guy. I told him what was happening. Turns out he's a Latino. His name is Idanis Rodriguez. I now have his number. So if anything ever happens where any of you
and
when
you called to check on me, you called my wife's phone later to check on me, and I was home, and you had that ability to offer it up. But I will say, and I was
very worried about you. I was genuinely, legitimately worried.
It was
about
a very
you
disorienting
the streets of New York, like poverty stricken and with nothing,
with no way to contact anybody. I'm very reliant on my phone. It was the longest I've gone without looking at my phone in years. But the end of the story, I have to say thank you to the MTA because they called at 3:00 in the morning.
Oh, Heather must have loved that.
Yeah. And they retrieved my phone, my wallet, everything that was in it. I had to go and pick it up at 10 a.m. And I did. And I didn't sleep much that night, but I survived, and it's all good.
And then what did you do, you ungrateful lech?
Then I made fun of you on Joy's podcast episode the next day. Yes. And I immediately got an angry text from you afterwards.
It wasn't angry.
I said,
you know what I said to
yes.
you? I said, you can joke with me because I don't take offense.
Yes, and if I told that was someone else.
I said, if you had done that to
Whoopi, Sonny, any of them.
Or if you had done that to Sonny, she would disembowel you.
Yeah,
she would literally be wearing your intestines as as a clunky, chunky necklace.
Listen,
right now.
sometimes I want to poke the bear. It happens. Occasionally.
Okay, and what were you saying? That my podcast is just
Joy
me
was telling
yapping?
me to save a story for your podcast. I said had to save this story for your podcast, and Joy said Anna's got her own podcast, and I said, yeah, but if you heard her podcast, she needs my help. It's
Can
just
I
her
tell you
yapping.
something?
Yes.
You are dying of podcast envy. Since I got my podcast, which has much better lighting than you had, you've got a new studio.
We've got new
you've
lighting.
got all of this
Yep.
lighting. I mean, yeah, last week I looked like I had jaundice, and the lighting has since improved. I still think I have better lighting. Bleep with Anna Navarro. I got to tell you something. I had a great interview on there that I taped yesterday. And it was with Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona.
Oh, good timing
and
to have him.
Well, I had him because of how much he's been on the news. He's been in the news a lot because he was best friends with Eric Swalwell.
Yeah.
And so Democrats are saying, it was an open secret in Washington. Everybody knew what Swalwell was doing. How could you not have known? And they're using it against him. Of course, Ruben Gallego is this incredible rising star.
Right.
He won in Arizona. Kamala Harris lost Arizona. Trump won Arizona. And Ruben Gallego won a very competitive
All right. I'm going to be listening to your
so
podcast.
I pushed him hard
Yeah.
on that because, but as I've told you, I've been blindsided before by things
People you didn't expect.
People did, and as I told him, right now, there is a former congressman who worked for my husband, who was my close friend. His name is David Rivera, who was Marco Rubio's best friend for decades. They shared a house in Tallahassee. They owned it together.
And he had a whole secret life.
Yeah, and he is on trial right now in Miami for being an unregistered agent of Maduro.
It's insane.
And Marco had to go to the trial in Miami and testify a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, I believe Marco didn't know any of that. I certainly didn't know any of that. So is it possible that, is it possible to get blindsided by somebody
do you really
that you
know?
think is a friend?
It's a question. All right, so we have to go because they're flashing. If I was Whoopi, they'd be playing the music right now. But I have one last note. Your favorite moment from the Devil Wears Prada premiere party. You and I are sitting at a table having a drink, which I desperately needed. Someone walked over and said how much they love you. They love the show. You were nice enough to introduce me. And he said, oh, you don't have to tell me. I love the podcast. And then you rolled your eyes and then said, oh, are you a Bry guy? And he said, a what?
Oh, no, my favorite.
You clearly never listened to the podcast.
Way, my favorite part of the Devil Wears Prada thing was, that party was lovely and it was big.
It was very
and
cool.
The food was delicious. I've eaten so much this week. I need to go inject myself immediately. But then as I'm leaving, I'm thinking, this cannot be the party because none of the cast was there. None of the cast was there. So then as I'm leaving, I see this curtain. And this kind of like the curtain kind of half opens and I catch a glimpse of Meryl Streep's bright red leather dress. And I'm like, oh, man, there's a
good
party behind that.
There's always
curtain.
a party behind the party.
There's always a party behind that curtain somewhere. And so then I try to get in and the security stops it. Security was running heavy at that event.
But you burst
and security says to me, this is just for cast and movie execs. Okay, and then I start looking around. There's always a way. I start looking around, and I spot one of our security in there. He says, "Oh, come in." And I come in, and I do the thing that makes you the most nervous. Like, if your night could not have been worse.
You start talking to my bosses.
I start talking to the new CEO of Disney, who's lovely. Oh, my God, he's so young. I'm so old now that CEOs are my same age. There were so many execs there. The whole cast was there. It was lovely. There were velvet banquettes, and there was food being brought and drinks being brought. You didn't have to go get them. They were being brought to you on platters. And it was, I really I really enjoyed the going back to that movie and the nostalgia of the characters 20
It was
years
fun.
later.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah, Meryl Streep is just, oof, what a
she's
goat.
pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining me today, Anna Navarro.
You
Tomorrow,
better not cut any of that.
I'm cutting half this episode. We have an all-new View episode tomorrow, which you'll be on, and it's featuring Kathy Griffin. Talk about your funny, iconic guest to have here. And we'll see you next week.
She hates Trump, too.
Yeah. Who
Hates.
doesn't?
It's not that she's not a fan of Trump. She hates Trump, too.
Fair enough. And then after that, we'll see you next week here on Behind the Table.
Behind the Table is executive produced by Brian Teta. Supervising producers are Nathan Getty and Summer Shea. Associate producers are Emily Darcy and Katerina Alexopoulos. And our editor is Brian Davis. And director of publicity is Laurie Hogan. From ABC Audio, Trevor Hastings serves as senior producer, with director of podcast programming Josh Cohen.